All right, we are live. Welcome to Office Hours with Arrow, a LinkedIn live event hosted by Arrow leaders who care about what senior living looks like. I'm your host and producer, Rachel Sheehan, and today's topic is all about digital marketing strategies with our very own Nicole and our special guest, Kayla. So, ladies, I would love for you, you're both first-time guests here on my show, so I would love for you to tell us, we'll start with you, Nicole, just tell us who you are, what you do, and your background on how you got into this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Nicole Rozsa, Managing Director of Marketing at Arrow Senior Living. And I have been with Arrow for almost 6 years. It'll be 6 years in November. And this was my first job out of college. I kind of fell into senior living, which was really cool because I was helping my grandparents find senior living in Pittsburgh, PA, actually. And we knew my grandpa was going to pass away soon, and we wanted to make sure that my grandma was nearby. And so we were looking at one of our communities in Stowe, Ohio, and we ended up making a deposit for her in memory care. But unfortunately, she ended up passing away before she was able to move in. But that's kind of the direction that I went because I was on a tour before the community was opening up, and I was very interested in helping more people. And so I ended up applying for a sales coordinator role, and that's how I started my journey. I was a sales coordinator, and then I ended up in marketing. So that's a little bit about my background.
Very cool. And how long have you been with Arrow, Nicole? You
might have said almost 6 years. 6 years in November. Yes.
Very cool. I love it. Awesome. Kayla, tell us about you and how you got into advertising.
Yeah. So my name is Kayla Bravo. I actually studied at Wingate University and I majored in marketing and got a job right off the bat as an intern at a different advertising agency. And so right off the bat, I think it was like 2 or 3 months into working, we actually had like Arrow Senior Living. And it was really interesting to see how like our journey has been. I've actually been working with Arrow for about 5 years now, which is really crazy to think that our relationship is just taking so many new levels of just like understanding like who we are, what we need. And I've also learned so much from just like the senior living industry in general. And so because of that, I decided to kind of start my own company. And as you can see, founder of Maverick Advertising. And we provide basically like the same services and just try to be an extension of Arrow Senior Living. And that's what I honestly love about working with you guys because it has been such an honor. It is one of those things where I get excited to hop on a meeting with Nicole, Gregory, Shannon, because I know it's going to be amazing. It's going to be like a conversation, just like talking to a friend and just updating each other on our lives, but also understanding everything that there is about Arrow and like how we can help in any way. So.
Yeah, well said. I think too, just to add into this as well is, yeah, like Kayla said, she's an extension of our team. And it's so nice because she really knows like everything about our communities and like what we need. And we constantly will challenge each other, and her and her team will ask us questions and we'll ask questions back. And it just makes for such a great partnership. So I really appreciate it. And we all do.
I'm so excited. I think I'm going to learn so much. I mean, I've said it before. I'm on the same team as Nicole every day, but like we don't do the same things. So I'm just excited to learn all about this. So Nicole, tell us exactly what we're going to dive into today.
Yes, we're going to talk about digital tactics and how they enhance all of our marketing efforts and just the landscape of digital in general. So I feel like we should just get into it. Kayla, what exactly are the tactics and why are they so important in today's landscape?
Yeah. So overall marketing, I think that's been something that we've kind of always heard about. You've seen it like through whether it's like a billboard or a mailer like Arrow Senior Living does. But right now with advertising, what we do for you guys is we provide Google AdWords, which is something very simple where we just reach consumers right at the point of like where they're searching. So we can do ads generated. We can generate ads based on like what they're searching on Google. But then there's obviously social media, which is so popular in today's age, where you have Facebook, you have Instagram, and sometimes people think it's really stalkerishy when they like look up something and then out of nowhere it pops up on their Facebook or Instagram. So that's one other thing. And then the main thing where I think this is where like Arrow Senior Living decided to kind of open their doors to advertising was programmatic. So there's so many different tactics there. You have geofencing, residential geofencing, site search. There's so much to kind of throw in there. But overall, those are just tactics that have just opened the door for digital advertising to really take the next step. Whether it be honing in on a person when they're in their home and kind of sending an ad right when they're sitting on the couch, or when they go and visit like a different competitor. It's a way for us to kind of reach the consumer right where they're at. So there's a lot of tactics, and I think Arrow has probably tested and is still doing each and every one of those.
Yes, very much so. And I know too, it's so nice to have all those tactics running just because it's also like an extension of like all the marketing efforts that we do on a daily basis. And it's great. And I encourage anybody who isn't doing digital advertising alongside those things to really look into it, because you can't reach every consumer just with digital. Of course, we're going into this, generation of more and more digital makes sense for our population. But we also, have to understand that that might work, but then also it also is very impactful to have like the direct mail, to have the billboards, to have radio and all those things, because we're reaching, people across many different channels. And I know what's really great, especially with Maverick, is they do have a graphic designer that we use. And so we take our our direct mail and we turn it into a digital ad. So that has the same look and feel. So when people are seeing it, they're getting a direct mail, they're getting the same digital ad, and it creates more touch points for somebody to turn into a lead.
Mm-hmm.
So Kayla, I also would love to know, can you explain the retargeting and how it's used effectively in senior living, and how families can engage after they visited the website?
Yeah. So I think this kind of goes back to that stalkerish moment that I said, of just like when people visit a website, they don't realize that our phones, our computers, they have this IP address. It's not like, oh, Nicole or Rachel Sheehan has gone in. It doesn't say your exact name. And I think that's where people get freaked out. But overall, like we have this tactic set up where whenever you visit a website, if it has a pixel that we place, obviously, we can track you automatically. So let's say Nicole decides to look up a senior living community in her area and falls upon one of the communities that Arrow Senior Living offers. Um, Her IP address gets automatically like taken into account. And that's when we start retargeting. So we have different ways of retargeting. We have different ads. We can do it just like a static ad. We can do like a GIF kind of like movement ad, which has been super awesome. I think that's something that people don't realize, that the more movement you have in an actual ad actually is really engaging and gets someone's attention. But who would have thought that? So overall, like it is such a great way for you to really get the person that you're trying to kind of like, whether it be a lead or move in. I think that's been like our struggle recently. It's like a lot of the tactics we're trying to get people to come and visit our website. With site retargeting, these people have already visited our website. They obviously want something out of it. And so our job is to really try to get them back into it. And sometimes we even add in other tactics like geofencing, residential geofencing, which has been such a huge thing. And it's really up and coming in just marketing in general. I know we kind of always say like digital advertising or digital marketing, but in reality, it's just marketing at this point, because we're so glued to our phones. Let's be honest, like we leave our house and it's always where's our phone, keys, wallet. Those are the three things that we always leave without. And if you leave without your phone, you're like screwed in a way, because you're like, "Oh wait, I need directions, or I need to call my mom." So it's like having that digital aspect has been so impactful for every single area. And we've seen it, how going cold turkey and kind of turning off all that, like the overall tactics and digital has really impacted in a negative way, but also adding stuff has been so impactful as well, because you have nothing to really lose. If anything, you have more to gain and more to understand and learn about your consumer, who you're targeting, the locations. And I think that's where these past 5 years with Arrow has been such a great journey of like really understanding who the consumer is. We've tested so many things out, and site retargeting has always been that thing where it's like, oh, this really works. We should probably have this for every single community. Why don't we do that? So yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead,
Oh, I
Rachel.
was gonna say that's happened to me before, so now it makes sense because I look at the websites for my job, but then I'd be scrolling on like a blog and there's your little GIF like that you created. So that's
You're
awesome.
welcome. Yeah, and I know Kayla's team and our team together have had that negative impact when it comes to turning off something cold turkey. One of our communities we did that with, and we really saw like our leads drop. And after that, it's like, what are the things that are going to help if that's turned off? You think about SEO, but SEO is going to drop at that point too. So there's so many little things that really like create that negative impact when you do turn something off cold turkey. And so it was a great learning lesson for us to say, okay, let's moving forward, never do that again, because that was not great. And then you do have to start over from scratch, building all of that up in the programmatic side. So, it was very unfortunate, but also we know that we won't make that mistake moving forward. So, so Kayla, do you think that we have to break the bank when it comes to budget with all these tactics?
Not necessarily. I love this question because it's always been something where in our meetings, and Nicole, I know you can attest to it, we're always like, should we just add more budget? Should we just add more budget? And yes, I would love to say, oh my gosh, money makes everything better. But we all know the saying, it's like money doesn't buy happiness. It can help, but in reality, it never really does much. It kind of puts that temporary band-aid on there, and it's like, okay, but now you're going to really need to kind of do a little bit more. My main thing with like adding more budget, like I mentioned, is great, but most of the time it's the strategies behind it. That's why with Arrow and my team, like we have really kind of emphasized this, hey, one size does not fit all. One strategy does not fit all. So just because you have two communities, we're not going to put the same budget for each community. We're not going to put the same competitors, locations. We're not going to do that because we understand that each community is different. And that's something that I've even had to learn. It's not just locations, but it's the fact that every community has different amenities. Every community has a different level of care. I never really understood. I always thought it was just senior living. No, there's independent living, assisted living, memory care. There's so much. And that's the funny part about it is like the way that you guys are learning about just marketing in general. I've learned so much about senior living in general, and that's helped me be able to help you guys. I've talked about it a little bit before. It's like I'm an extension of Arrow's team. I'm not here to say like, oh, I just want you guys to add this much budget and like maybe I'll provide you results. No, we've gone through this before where it's like, I don't think this much money is really helpful. I remember I'd email and be like, I think that's too much. And then be like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, I really do think that's too much. Like, one, because you don't have a sufficient audience. And sometimes we're really just targeting the select few because we really know that those are the ones that are going to convert. Those are the ones that are going to fill out the forms and really move in. So, to answer your question, no, we do not need to break the bank. And I strongly urge not to, just for the sole purpose of there's other ways around it. You'll be surprised what $100 can do for a site retargeting tactic. So it's always being able to kind of look back and kind of say, okay, what's the strategy? What's our purpose? What are we trying to achieve here? And is that possible? Because I'm going to be very honest. There's been multiple meetings that we've had where Nicole's like, hey, is it possible to do this? And I'm like, we're going to have to look into that. Um, or it's like, hey, like, do we need to add this much budget to be able to do this? I'm like, no, we could just move budget around. There's always ways. And I've always said this to Nicole. I'm like, if you have an idea, please feel free to tell me. Like, I would love to, I love a challenge, but at the same time, it's like, I love to be able to kind of explore new things and understand that, like, I'm here to help you guys. And if it helps you guys, in the end, it's helping me as well because I'm providing those results for you. I'm seeing if you're achieving your goals, I'm also achieving my goals. And so I want it to be like a win-win for both of us. But yeah, it's the budget is always the funniest conversation to have with the Arrow team. So
Absolutely. And I love how you talked about the strategic part of it because like, as we know, senior living is, personal. It's both personal and it's very strategic. And it's something that like involves more than just a quick buying decision. And so being able to use and partner with people in digital, we're able to like really personalize to adult children and to seniors and promote our culture and our lifestyle, and even have that seasonality type of digital as well, because all of this is going to help like move the needle forward and in turn create more residents for our community, which is the ultimate goal, but also to continue to create trust and transparency and long lasting relationships.
No, I completely agree. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think this relationship has also been so long. The core values that Arrow as a whole has, I like attest to, and I really do relate to them. It's like I want to show as much transparency as possible, but also be very honest with like the team. If there's meetings that I've been very honest, like I know I have, where I've told them like, hey, we're not doing good. And I'll be completely honest. I'm not 100% sure what's going on. Or there's been meetings where like Nicole's like, "Hey, we haven't gotten any leads. Like, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Okay, let's look into this." And I think that's one of the things where it's like this relationship has just consistently been building on that ground foundation of just like one being kind to each other, but also being very transparent of like understanding like, "Hey, what are the needs? Let's talk through them. Like, what can we do to help?" And I think that's always been my thing. And I've always grown up like that. I give that trait to my father. He always wanted to help. He always wants to like know like how I can help, what can I do? And I try to do the same because I know at the end of the day, like it's to help you guys, but it's also that we kind of talked to that emotional connection. It's like the senior living is more personal and it involves like you guys being like on the front line. I remember there's one time that Nicole, she had a meeting with me and I was like, "Where are you?" She's like, "Oh, I'm at one of the communities. Unfortunately, like something happened and like I was asked to come here." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know that you actually participated in the communities." And that was something like astounding to me because I was like, "Oh, you guys actually know your communities. It's not like you're just promoting something without even seeing it. Like you're actually going in, like seeing the residents." The amount of residents I think that I know because of Nicole is astounding. Especially when she's like, "Oh, do you know so and so?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I remember that story." So it's that connection and that relationship is always so essential, and it's just been continuously building. And I think that's what's helped us be able to even achieve more goals when we know that we can easily talk to each other and be transparent. I absolutely love that.
So, love that. That was so well said. Um, how do you feel that digital marketing does play in differentiating one community from another? I know we talked about it a little bit, but especially like in competitive markets. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So what's funny enough is people don't realize that you can actually see what other people are doing. It's very simple. I know with Google AdWords, like that's something that we have just kind of come to find out. Like the internet has so many things to offer, but it also shows you like, hey, what is our competitor doing? Like what are they doing that one is either like beating us in Google AdWords or beating us in like other platforms. So we've been very strategic in the sense of understanding what our competitors are doing and either doing the same or one upping. And that doesn't involve adding more budget. It just involves being more strategic in understanding the needs and understanding like what needs to come out. Like what are the goals? Because every community is different. I've mentioned it before. The locations vary. The level of cares, the amenities. So understanding that like everything is different. Also, it's like the amount of time that it takes for someone to move in. That is something that completely blew my mind with Era Senior Living, where we kind of learned like, oh, this decision is it's a long process. It's like buying a house. You don't just go in and say, I just want to buy a house, and automatically the next day you have a house. Some people, you never know. But in most circumstances, it's not like that, where we've literally understood that it could take 60, 90, almost a year. Because everybody is different. Every single person that walks in through the doors at any community at Arrow is completely different. And I think as a team, as Arrow, you guys do such a great job of understanding like who your person is and like where you can place them, where like the best community would fit, whether it be their location, what level of care they need. And so that also trickles into the marketing because if we know like who those people are, what they need, we can say, hey, let's drive more people to this community. Or if we know like, hey, this community doesn't have that many people, we really want to kind of advertise that, we can do that. It's simple as just creating a great branding message. Because the good thing about marketing right now is like we can really get the right people at the right time with the right message. And I think that's where a lot of people are not realizing that digital marketing is just continuously growing, and it's going to keep like growing even more if you don't kind of like stay on top of it. So I think at the end of the day, with strategies, it's a really not the one size fits all. You really have to kind of dig deep into each community and understand like what are their needs and build off of that. It's the same way that we kind of do with our own personal lives. We kind of understand like, hey, where do we want to buy a house? What kind of car do we want? It's not something that you kind of like do in a split second. It's something that needs to be accounted for with plenty of time and understanding like what the options are.
Yeah, we did have a question come through as well about strategies. So what would you say for different examples of different digital marketing strategies used for adult children compared to our residents that move in?
That's actually a great question. And I think we've actually done this multiple times with Arrow. So we have residential geofencing, which in a nutshell, residential geofencing is placing these like imaginary fences on people's homes. So we can do this one of two ways. Arrow can provide us a mailing list of just different addresses. And the good thing is like we don't have like their full names. We just have their addresses. And when we actually pull a report, it's on like a zip code level. I know I'm going to nerd out for a second. But in its entirety, what happens is we like target them directly in their home. So any digital device that is in that location is going to be targeted. So one of the things that we did, because there was a location that was kind of, we were like, oh, do we want more like older adults or do we want adult child, elderly parent? Like, how do we do this? I was like, let's do both. Let's do a mailing list that is designated just for that and a mailing list that's designated just for older adults. And so that was something that we kind of like started to understand. If we wanted to be very specific with how to target, we wanted to do residential. We wanted to get people right in their homes, right where they were at. And so when we started doing that, we started realizing, oh, this is actually really smart. We can do this even for like people that are just interested in like what senior living is. So in its entirety, residential geofences was one of our marketing strategies. Google AdWords is also something very impactful. And I think people kind of take it like for advantage because they don't understand the amount of like information that you can put into it, whether it be income levels, ages, qualifications. That's something that we actually talked about today is like those income qualifications. Like what can we do and strategize for someone that falls into this kind of category? So the possibilities are endless when it comes to who you want to target and what kind of strategy. And that's what I absolutely love about marketing because I know you guys do that with your mailers where it's like, hey, we have this mailer that's going to be designated for this category. Let's send it out. And that's one of the things that we try to mimic with you guys. It's like whatever the mailer is, we would love to do the same because that kind of provides that brand recognition. And I think Arrow as a whole is such a large organization. And I think it really needs to be recognized. And so we try to do that more and more of just like mimicking what's going on with the digital and a direct mail and social media. And like, there's just so many like things that we try to do all together to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. I love that question.
Yeah, way to go, Charlie. That's great. If there was one, if somebody asked you, like, what is one tactic that you feel like I'm only going to do, what would you do? Or what would you give that advice to?
That's terrible. um, oh, that's really hard actually. Because I think
It
each
goes back to
tactic,
the one size fits all.
yeah, and it's hard because like each tactic as a whole has something special about them.
Mhm.
Like I mentioned, like residential geofencing, we're targeting them right in their homes. Then you have geofencing. If you wanted to geofence like all of these competitors, like you could. And so anybody that enters that location is going to receive an ad. And so it's really hard because you have are we categorizing it as like programmatic, social, and Google, or are we doing geofencing residential? Like is that
Ooh, you
kind of
pick. You pick.
That's hard. If I could pick in that 3 category, I would
Yeah, 3.
definitely say probably programmatic. So
Mhm.
that involves my geofencing, my residential, my site, my search and keyword targeting, because I can do so much with just all those tactics. There's
Mhm.
so much that I can kind of dive deep, and it's crazy how like each tactic actually helps each other out. So it's like if someone receives an ad in like a location, like for instance, let's say Nicole, you got served an ad because you visited a competitor's location. If you click on that ad, you're technically being brought to the website. Therefore, our site retargeting tactic gets activated. And so you're going to start seeing ads.
Mhm.
But then it could be that you decide to search a term later on because you saw an ad, but then you couldn't remember like who Arrow Senior Living was. So you decide to like type in senior living near me. My search tactic now gets activated. So there's like, it's amazing to see how they all kind of come together to help.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, like we're trying to meet the goals that you guys have. And I know with Air Senior Living, it's really getting those form fills and really getting those leads to be able to get people to move into the community because you guys have amazing communities that have so much to offer. And I think we have that stereotype of like a senior living community is just like there's nothing there, like they're always bored. And like in the reality, like the pictures that you guys take, I know Nicole's always like in a community, and I love seeing all those things because there's so much more to offer. There's so many great amenities. Like if I know I don't remember exactly which community, but offering a 24-hour bistro, sign me up. I will gladly sign up to like move into that community when I get older. So I think there's so much amazing things that you guys have to offer, and it just makes my job even easier because I enjoy doing this.
I think that's amazing. And it kind of goes back to the partnership that we have. And it's like the fact that you can, like you were so aligned with like the levels of care and knowing our communities yourself and knowing, our amenities, that speaks so much to what Maverick offers and your team and your just great heart for what you do. And it only, again, like it only makes us and any other community so much better because of the great relationship that we can build upon and continue to strategize on and bring not just leads to the sales team but also make them quality leads because obviously that's very important. So
That's awesome. I know we're about to wrap up, but there was also a comment about how you've helped Kayla, you've helped our recruiting efforts as well with advertising. So I know we
that
didn't
is
touch on
true.
that at all. If you have anything to say about that side of things.
Yeah, no, honestly, that has also opened up so many new like doors into understanding like senior living as a whole. Like the amount of positions that I didn't know was required for a senior living community to actually function is absolutely amazing. And it's really interesting to be able to kind of dive deep into that area as well, where I can see like, okay, you guys are looking for LPNs, CNAs, like there's so many different positions, and it makes me more intrigued to understand like, okay, what can I do to help and get people to go and apply for those jobs? I know we've done events where it's like you guys have had job fairs, and we've done that through social media. We've done recruitment through Google AdWords, through programmatic. We've done it all. And we've truly seen the impact. And I think that's one of the things where I'm always very open with Arrow and the team because whatever we do, I want to be able to understand and know, like, hey, is it making an impact? Like, hey, how are leads this week? And I think that's something that Nicole and I are always talk about. We're like, hey, are you guys doing okay? Is there any community that I need to worry about? Is there anything that like we should be doing that you guys are doing currently? Like, there's always like endless possibilities, but it's also that open communication that we have has truly been a benefit for this like organization as a whole because I didn't even know you guys had recruitment. And then I think Gregory on the team had mentioned, he was like, hey, we actually have Stephanie who wants to start doing recruitment. Is that possible? And I was like, of course. Why wouldn't it? So it has just been an amazing opportunity to be able to kind of understand every segment of just Air Senior Living, whether it be just the senior living communities or recruitment. It has been fascinating.
I love it. I love it. Thank you guys. I feel like I learned so much and I'm like, oh, you guys are sneaky and it's awesome. So I think we did it. Thank you so much for being here. Next week, we're going to talk about our flu clinics and how much fun we have with the wellness team. So stay tuned for that. But for now, Kayla and Nicole, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Later.